Ruth is here. What have you got for us this evening?
Well, plenty as it goes. I'm glad we saw a little bit of colour there because, quite frankly, the forecast itself isn't exactly packed with thrills and spills. In fact, it's all just very dull. However, calm waters and fair winds come in very handy if, like Phil Wisby, you happen to make your living out at sea. Now, in his 70s, Phil is one of the last fishermen to still be operating a day trawler. But his livelihood is entirely dependent on the weather, no less. And you know what's incredible, John? You know, I stand here talking about the weather day in, day out. But for Phil, you know, the weather was bad that day and he got absolutely nothing. So you realise just how important the forecast is. Fish and Chip Friday. Well, I'll just leave that there.
I do love the fish stalls in Swansea Market, I have to say.
It's fascinating. It really was interesting. Now, the weather was a bit hit and miss there, but the weather at the moment is far from hit and miss. It's just all very settled, dull, predictable and frankly uneventful, which may or may not be a good thing depending on how you look at it. We have what we call affectionately a blocking high in charge of our weather at the moment. So I'll just run the sequence through and show you exactly what I mean. Here we go. A great big area of high pressure blocking all these nasties, these frontal systems, deflecting them off towards the north of the UK, pinging them back out into the Atlantic. So in a nutshell, the weather that you've had over the last few days is the weather you're going to have for the next few days and possibly into next week too. And that weather is not bad at all. It is generally dry and cloudy. Sunshine has been in very short supply, hasn't it? Temperatures are there or thereabouts, about right really for the time of year. It's not too warm, it's not too cold, it is average. And as I said, the settled conditions look set to last into next week. So pretty decent news if you are making plans, of course, for the coming weekend. If you're heading out fishing, for example. Here are the details. So there you go. It sort of feels like we've forgotten to put the weather on the map, really. There's just not much to say, just all very dull. But
I'll take it. No rain.
It could be a lot worse, couldn't it? Absolutely. Well, there's very little weather to talk about as we head through this evening and into the overnight period. The weather you've had today will not change. Largely grey, cloudy skies overnight tonight with the return of some rather dense patches of mist and fog by the early hours too. So if you have got to head out and about, just be careful because in some areas there could be reduced visibility on the roads. Temperatures tonight hovering at around 10 or 11 degrees, so nothing too troublesome here. Maybe a little bit cooler if you do see any clear skies, particularly that little bit further inland. But generally speaking, it will be a relatively mild start to tomorrow morning. And again, you could be, well, forgiven for wondering what on earth had happened to the sunshine, because I think as today, it is going to be really rather limited. Many areas not seeing any blue sky at all with that low cloud, mist and fog for some persisting too. A little bit of a breeze developing out towards coastal areas, but nothing worth too much of a mention. Temperatures for the time of year, all very average too, highs of 13 or 14 in Celsius. No change, yes, you guessed it, as we head through Saturday night and into Sunday. More of the same, quite frankly. High pressure keeping things fine and settled. We could see a little bit of cloud just starting to seep in further northwards, which maybe over Snowdonia, Bury could bring a few spots of patchy rain and drizzle where that cloud is thick enough. But it should be generally a dry weekend on the cards. And again, temperatures hovering at around 13 or 14 degrees. So possibly feeling just a little bit fresher, but the temperatures will start to recover as we head into next week. But next week is very much a case of more of the same. In fact, well, look at that, hardly any sunshine whatsoever, and temperatures all very OK, possibly turning just a little bit fresher overnight in places.